We mentioned this briefly earlier, but it's something I really want to get stuck into with you three now. The big question is there any loyalty at all left in football?
I wouldn't say at all, because the fans are the only loyal thing left, really, if we're going to be...
Good start, Righty.
But not being twee about it, but really, in the main, you know, managers are not loyal, players are not loyal, you know. It's something that's endemic in the game, but, you know, I don't know what you can do about it. People talk about loyalty, and the only real loyalty left is from the fans.
I've done my piece in the column in my paper today, saying, and I've tried to give people insight into what happens. I've got a bit of criticism for it, but I was telling my story, and I was desperate to leave Birmingham, and wrongly or rightly, and people can think what they want, I had to get away. I was under contract, 4 years left, but I wanted to go and improve myself with Blackburn, get more money, and play, in my opinion, for a club which I could be more successful than Birmingham, which was Blackburn. And I'd done everything I can, wrongly or rightly, to get out, messed about in training, fell out with Steve Bruce, but inevitably I got what I wanted. Doesn't make it right, for me it was, and I wanted to do the best for me and my family. I'd done it and I got away, and in the end it worked out for me.
So when you do something like that and you hear about that, and that's Robbie being really honest, some supporters will look at that and say that's a disgrace, players shouldn't do that, they're highly paid individuals and they should show a commitment to the club, and I get that side of the argument. But if you're going to do that, what's the point in having a contract in the first place if in reality it's not worth anything?
Well, Robbie, the only thing that you could point at, Robbie, and you've seen it when you're in the dressing room. You see it happen. The players not happy for whatever reason. They're not getting on with the manager, but they want to leave. But the only thing they can point a finger at Robbie there and say is, well, why did you sign a 5-year deal then after you want to leave? That's the only thing you can say. But like, if a better offer comes along, if a better offer comes along after you sign your contract, what's all of a sudden you got to say, well, you're thinking, oh, God, if I waited, maybe I could have got that deal easier than the way Robbie maybe had to get out. But that just happens. He wanted to better himself. He signed a contract. Unfortunately, he signed before this come along, so he's done what he's done to get out. Of course, it's not the ideal way to get out, but that happens. So
the flip side of that is Robbie signs a 5-year contract and he's playing really well, so Blackburn want to sign him. So I'm not just picking on you, but you've done the column this morning. So Robbie then causes such a commotion behind the scenes that Steve Bruce, he makes his position at the club untenable, so Steve Bruce has to sell him. He's got no choice because he's such a bad influence around the place at that point, right? That worked for him.
Yeah.
The flip side of that is Robbie signs a 5-year contract and either gets injured or starts to play badly. And then the club are lumbered with him if Robbie doesn't want to stay. Do footballers want it all on their side? Because if you look at it the other way around...
Another thing you're forgetting, Fletch, is, you know, if someone signs a long-term contract, that works for the club as well, because if Robbie was to go on and do really, really well, as we're seeing with Stones and the young boy Berahino, who've only signed probably relatively low-end contracts until the last couple of contracts, the club are then able to charge a premium. So it's a trade-off, and it's difficult to generalise because every transfer in essence is quite unique. You know, there's a lot of unique circumstances. You know, you look at the two we're talking about, or the two high-profile ones at the minute. They're quite difficult, you know. Although they look very similar, there'll be lots of different idiosyncrasies tacked onto each one. So, in the main, I agree with you. You know, there is a trade-off. You know, players should be very respectful of a contract, and there's a certain protocol and the way to do it. It used to be a lot simpler before agents and all manner of people got tacked onto it, when it was just a player and a manager. Manager controlled your destiny. Fergie at Man United, you went in to see him, told him either he told you he wanted to go or, you know, you told him you wanted to leave, and it was played out that way. Whereas now, there's so much baggage that this is why they're becoming really difficult.
Is there any... But if you sign that contract, you would be the first to say, I'm sure, as a player, that if you absolutely want to go, there's not really an awful lot that the club can do to keep you.
I think the boy is genuinely caught in a limbo. I think there's a part of him that wants to...
transfer request in?
Well, he thinks that's going to be able to force their hand. Maybe he's been told. Sometimes clubs tell you, you've got to hand a transfer request in if you want to go. I remember when I left Man City, I had to hand a transfer request in to go, even though they were quite happy to sell me because I had an incident at the end of the season. They thought they were getting decent money for me, and they were like, look, you've got to hand a transfer request.
They get money that way as well. They save money if you put the transfer request in.
Yeah.
So they're doing the same. They're trying to get money.
See, I see it from a manager's side of things, because a manager can lose 5 matches and then be sacked. So people who throw the argument in, well, a manager will leave a club to go to another one to better himself, I can understand that, because it's such a tightrope for a manager that if a manager loses 6 games, he's not got a job anymore. So he probably should be allowed a bit more freedom of contract. But players never get
I disagree
sacked.
with you, because a manager will have built the infrastructure. He'd have brought scouts in, he'd have brought analysts in, he'd have brought players in, he'd have brought a team in behind him. I think it's
but
actually...
then he loses 6 games and he's out.
So yeah, but that's not him going out.
Where's the loyalty to him? From
exactly, that's what I'm saying. So from a
manager
manager's standpoint, I would understand if a manager wants more freedom of contract, but a player would never be sacked.
But hang on,
never
if
hear
the
a player
club
being
sack the manager, you heard about managers getting paid. They get paid off, so they get generally a half or at least a lump sum of the contract.
And then they'll go out and get another job.
I think the difficulty lies in with players, and listen, there's an argument for both sides of it. It's not as cut and dried as one's right, one's wrong. There's an argument for both sides of a transfer. But I just think the way the modern kind of day game's gone and the player's gone, I honestly believe if Stones wanted to go, you can force a move. Every player knows that. You know, you say, I'm not going to play. But equally, a manager can say, well, tell you what, you're going to throw your toys out the pram. You know, you've got 4 years left on your deal. I'll be strong and I'll make you suffer.